Well, as bets go, the odds of a carbon tax passing through the lower house on Wednesday are almost a dead cert. But that hasn't stopped the already battered manufacturing sector from warning of some dire consequences. The newly formed lobby group Manufacturing Australia, whose members include big players like Amcor, BlueScope Steel and Boral, and small to medium businesses, is urging a delay to carbon tax legislation. I spoke to its executive chairman, Dick Warburton. Dick Warburton, welcome to the programme.
Thank you, Tiki.
Well, we all hate new taxes, but how much work has been done on quantifying just what a carbon tax might do to the manufacturing sector?
Well, one of the troubles is we've had so many models made on this, and I remember one scientist saying to me, not to be one day, but reading one day, that all models are wrong. Some are useful. And what he's saying there's so many assumptions that goes into a model that it does get confusing. It gets confusing to me. I'm sure it's confusing to the community at large. But there's been a lot of work done, but it's just confusing results coming out of it.
Well, the follow-up question then is, where is the evidence that this is going to damage the manufacturing sector so much? Because there are many other issues, and we're hearing now the loss of potentially 100,000 jobs in manufacturing, but big factors like the Australian dollars, the IMF saying that it's still potentially overvalued up to 15%. With these sorts of factors, how do we know that a carbon tax is not just more of a political debate than one of real damage?
Oh no, as far as the carbon tax is concerned, I think it's pretty clear cut that if we introduce a carbon tax on our manufacturing industries or industry general, when other countries don't do the same thing, other countries that we're competing against, puts it as a distinct disadvantage to those countries, which eventually will lead to job losses and even plant closures or plants going overseas. Now, I hesitate to put a hard figure on it because that's when you get down to these models that I'm talking about, but it definitely will have an economic effect.
You said earlier today that why should we be doing this when the rest of the world is actually pulling out of carbon taxes and the ETS? I'm just wondering what countries you're thinking about there.
Well, Canada has announced they're not going to go ahead with any carbon tax. So has Korea, so has Japan. They've made those announcements they're not going ahead. And no country has gone ahead with a carbon tax on ETS since Copenhagen.
Can I take you up on that? Because my understanding is that Japan is still going to be putting a carbon tax in place. In Canada, the carbon taxes are being going to be scheduled in through different states. And indeed, in Korea, they use their stimulus money into new green initiatives. And so these are very strong moves. They may be shifted back a bit, but everybody's moving in that direction, aren't they?
No, they might be doing moves like Korea you're talking about is to moves of mitigation or moves of change. That's good. I'm very much in favour of that. But they announced that they would not be introducing an ETS and carbon tax. Canada announced it straight after the election. They announced that. Japan, I can't recall when they made the statement, but Canada and Korea definitely have.
The union's Paul Howes today says your views don't reflect all the views of the members of Manufacturing Australia, and he says many of the members, the big ones like the steel industry, have welcomed the carbon tax package as it stands.
Well, they have. They welcomed the carbon tax package. As long as the carbon tax is going to be in place, they have welcomed the package, and so do I. I think it's very good. The trouble is, it's not going to last forever, and it's not going to be a long-lasting economic benefit to some of those companies. It is certainly not a benefit to those companies that aren't part of the steel transformation plan.
Yeah, you're talking about the $300 million lifeline.
Yes, that's right.
So they're only welcoming it on the basis that it's linked to that.
That's correct.
The bill will go through, presumably, in the lower house on Wednesday morning.
Looks like it.
Why bother?
Well, to me, it is such a wrong thing to be doing at a time when the other countries aren't doing it. And right now in this economic climate, we don't need this other tax to come in at this stage.
But what do you hope to achieve by this lobbying at this late stage?
Just to keep the whole pressure on this, that at some stage, who knows what might happen in the next month, 2 months, 6 months, 9 months, whatever.
Well, you're thinking of a change of Labour leader or something like that?
It could be a change of a Labour leader, there could be a change of government. And so we believe that the least we can do is just keep the pressure on that.
The Greens have come at you again as well today. Christine Milne says Dick Warburton's admission that he doesn't respect the climate science and believes that the globe has stopped warming undermines any credibility of his calls for delaying the clean energy future bills. Doesn't this put you firmly in the sceptics' camp?
Well, I'm a sceptic. I've never moved away from that. I've always believed a sceptic, but a sceptic is a different person than a denier. I say the science is not settled. I'm not saying it's wrong. I've never said it's wrong, but I don't believe it's settled, and I don't believe there's enough evidence to say that we should be going into wholesale carbon taxes when it's not settled enough, and particularly the other countries not going ahead with it. You have to ask the question, why aren't they going ahead with it? Because they've got the same problem.
The unions today again have called you a mouthpiece for Tony Abbott. Are you still chairing his advisory council?
I am, and I'm not a mouthpiece for Tony Abbott. We happen to be aligned on this issue, and that's why I've been involved with that advisory council. But the rest of it, I take a bipartisan approach, as I always have in business.
What are the other issues? Because this seems to be the big issue that Manufacturing Australia has brought up. Are you looking to do anything else for manufacturing?
Yeah, it's the most topical issue, Ticky, and that's why it's right to the forefront. I would far rather it be spread over the other issues that Manufacturing Australia would like to face up to, such as anti-dumping laws, productivity, innovation, IR reform, tax reform. All of these are issues that we want to address through the Manufacturing Australia body.
You haven't been very vocal on the other ones. To date, you haven't been very vocal on those other ones compared to the carbon tax.
Well, people ask me about the carbon tax. Yeah. I've tried to be vocal about all those issues, but it just keeps coming back to carbon tax all the time, and that's understandable because it's going to be a big issue in the Parliament this week.
After the tax summit last week, Julia Gillard announced she would chair a task force into manufacturing. Now, was that any more than window dressing, do you think?
Well, I hope not. I think it's a good move because prior to that, there hadn't been great evidence that there was a lot of attention being placed to manufacturing in general. I think that was the window dressing before then. To me, it was a very good outcome, and I hope that it progresses beyond just being a window dressing.
Dick Warburton, I thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you, Ticky.